Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Poetry Salon. I am Tricia Fay Hefner. If you don't know, the Poetry Salon is on a mission to make inspiration, education, and quality community available and more accessible across the magic of the internet. You can find out more about our workshops at the Poetry Salon stack.substack.com. I'm going to keep that advertisement a little brief, and I just want to say that this is a really special event we have because we are honoring the poet John Branningham, who passed rather suddenly, I think, on Easter, if I'm not mistaken. And I just want to say, to be totally honest and transparent, I really didn't know John all that well. I had heard about his journal, the Journal of Radical Wonder. Of course, I thought that was a wonderful title for a journal. And then Robbie Nestor introduced me to John through Words with You, where he was a featured reader along with Jane Edinburgh. And then I got to do an interview with John and Jane, and I just felt an immediate kinship with him. And I quite identify as a nature poet myself, and I was reading a lot of John's work, and I called him, and I meant this entirely as a compliment. I introduced him at one point to our fellow poets by saying he's the male modern Mary Oliver. And as I said, of course, I meant that as a compliment because I love Mary Oliver and she inspires me to spend more time in nature, and John's poems inspire me to spend more time in nature. But I was thinking about it later, and it's not really accurate. He wasn't a male version or a modern version of someone else. He was his own person, his own first original John Branningham. And since he passed, I invited everybody to come and share some poems of his or inspired by him, or maybe a poem that you had uh, published in the Journal of Radical Wonder. So the way this is going to work, I am going to read a poem of John's that I really enjoy. Um, I'm not going to say too much about it. And then I think I'll just go through the list of folks I have alphabetically and ask if you want to read or not. So you can either decide to read or you can just say pass. And because we are such a large group, we're at 51 right now, which is quite a large group for poets. I just want to ask everyone to keep your reading kind of short. I'm sure we all have things we want to say about how important John was. But, uh, you know, I'm sure we all also have plants we have to water and animals we need to attend to and things like that. So I want to make sure that we can focus on the poetry here. Uh, and and as you were reading, because one of my beliefs about poetry is we're here to inspire each other to write more poetry or live in a way that's more poetic. As you were hearing these poems, I want to invite everyone to feel free to write down any lines that you like, any ideas that you're taking from other people. And then after the reading, um, you can take those lines and use them to inspire or start a new poem of your own. Okay. With that said, are there any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, I am going to put this on. I'm going to remove the spotlight and just let us be here, kind of Knights of the Round Table. I can't see everybody all at once. And I think I'm going to start to the right of me, and I'll just keep going. Might take a little while to get to everyone. But Robbie, oh, I said I was going to start with the first poem. So I'm going to start with the first poem, and then Robbie, I'm going to ask you next, and then we'll popcorn to Walter. Okay. So the poem that really got me, and as you can probably tell, I've got some allergies here, which is why I keep sniffling. Don't worry, I'm not contagious, especially not through Zoom. But the poem that really got me from John, and I think about it every time I go gathering acorns in the fall. This is called The Ritual of Acorns by John Branningham. First is the gathering. You have to get out into the woods just after the acorns fall, so the bugs and squirrels don't get to them, and before they get too wet or start to rot. Then there is the drying and the shelling. And then you have to put the stock pot to boil to leach the tannins before you get to the point where you can start cooking. You lose yourself in the gathering. You lose yourself in shucking the shells and drying and boiling them clean. You lose yourself and descend into the dream of feeding yourself. You eat them and are of this wild place, your body built of its giant trees. Thank you, John Branningham, for that poem. Next up, Robbie Nestor. Robbie, are you able to unmute yourself?
Sorry. I'm going to read one of my own ekphrastic poems because John was constantly boosting my ekphrastic poems and supporting me when everyone else told me to get a life. So by boosting my own ekphrastic poems, I feel that I'm honoring him as well. And the poem I'm going to read is called Once a Raven. And it is a response to this image that's behind me by Beth Moon, a photograph by Beth Moon, who's a wonderful photographer from San Francisco. And it didn't end up in my book. The image didn't, um, because her assistant once told me I could not use it for free. But after the book was published, she was so disappointed that it wasn't in the book. So she says if it goes into a second edition, please put it in. So it hasn't done that yet. So I'll read the poem. Once a Raven, after Flight of the Raven by Beth Moon. In another life, we flew together, sheltered in the boughs of ancient bristlecones, rich with seed. Our voices rose loud and raucous, but that was long ago, almost beyond memory. From the ground, I watched the flocks assemble on the wires, the stunted eucalyptus. They called to one another in a tongue I no longer understand. Seeker of bright things, there is only one way back to harmony. With you at my back like a quiver, I become a corvid angel, hunting nothing but the sense of flight, intimate with clouds and wind. My human bones are clumsy, far too heavy for this feat, yet I rise unencumbered on borrowed wings, adept in ways forgotten long ago. Thank you.
All right, Robbie, thank you so much. Next up, Walter Pickett. Don't forget to unmute yourself, Walter.
Thank you. I often sound better on mute, but I'll try. I'm with the group calling ourselves the Right Circle from Sinclairville Library. Beth Hadley is our Spiritus Rector there in Western New York. I have been writing for years, but never, ever understood what poetry was. When I first met John, he gave a little prompt to a small group, and he said, "This is going to be dangerous." And immediately, based on the prompt, I literally cried because it's so true. I wrote a very short piece just in memoriam. That's all I'd like to read. John once shared with me that his heritage way back was with among the Quakers. And that inspired a certain thought in that. In darkness, John turned to light, always, and now forever. Light that knows no end lights the way. For showing me that, I thank you, John. Amen. Hi, Ann. It's nice to see you again. I remember seeing you up at the library.
Thank you, Walter. Next on up is Howard. And then after Howard, I'm going to ask, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, Evo, YVO. But now Howard.
Well, I won't be able to speak for long today, but John was a wonderful person and writer. And I'm so glad to see that he touched so many lives as I know that he did. But he would be so pleased to be here with us and to see how we are commemorating him today. But he'll always be with us, John. And Anne will always be in my heart wherever I go. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Howard, Debs.
Yes, yes. Besides publishing my work in his Journal of Radical Wonder, John served as media coordinator for the nonprofit New Voices Project, of which I am founder. His poem published in Silver Birch Press on August 15, 2013, and kudos, by the way, to Melanie for all she has done since John's passing, is titled In Praise of Dogs Who Howl at the Moon. It begins, some nights everything on earth is loose, and you feel yourself slipping off gravity's mooring, slipping off into the night. Feel the moon's going to grab you and pull you out into space. So as a kind of colloquy, call and response, if you will, here's my Watching the Moon Rising from my book gallery. Watching the moon rising, reclaim your sense of place in our world. The hoary Hebrew calendar counts the moon. Stonehenge watches for the sun. It all comes down to us from ancient celestial mysteries, and still we are enthralled by these mystical memories. When you rise up, the sun is in the east, and when you lie down, the sun is west, and going down somewhere in tune with its universal rhythm, while the moon is rising in its own time. And if you are down in a valley, you can stand lifting your head, looking upward and watching the moon rising over the hills in the distance, far away. And if the full moon is rising in all its grandeur, you can feel your place on earth, a small, still voice within this sphere. While your feet may yet be planted firmly on the ground, but gazing up toward the firmament, your eyes are mesmerized by the giant orb of night. Now you can consider your destiny and the way you will go, following the sun, rising with the moon. The wolf howls at the moon. We humans wonder, watching the moon rising. Thanks for hosting this literary memorial to John. I think he would be pleased at the idea of it.
Thank you, Howard. Next up, please tell me how to pronounce it. Evo.
It is pronounced Evo. Thank you. I don't have a poem, but if you don't mind, I just want to share a quick memory about John. Um, sorry. I've known John since second grade. We met at the beginning of second grade, and we were best friends, grade school, and into high school. And just as a second grader and being a first generation American, I didn't have any real introduction to pop culture except through John. Um, so John introduced me to Lord of the Rings, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and believe it or not, heavy metal, which I think I probably ended up enjoying more than John himself. So um, I wouldn't be the person I am if not for John. So gonna miss you, buddy.
Thank you, Evo. Next is Stephanie Hammer, and then after that, if you want to speak, Anne, you'll be after Stephanie.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Evo. That was amazing. There's been so much conversation about John as a teacher, as the grand capacitator, which he was. He made us all more capable. So I want to read a little bit from The Gift of Form. And this is chapter 3, the sonnet. When people think of formal poetry, they most often think of the sonnet. It's the poem type that most people are familiar with because in high school, it's the form that we are forced to read most often. Because so much of the old poetry we read is in the sonnet form, sonnets are both familiar and scary. After all, Keats wrote sonnets, Wordsworth wrote sonnets, gasp, Shakespeare wrote sonnets. It's hard to live up to that kind of poetic weight. But the thing is that you don't have to do that. You don't have to live up to anything. The sonnet is not a form with rules and a tradition that you have to live up to. The sonnet is a form with tools that can help you. Then he gives some instructions about how to do that. When you write in form, you need to let go. You might not have any idea of what you're going to write and just let the form create the poem. Alternatively, you might have some kind of idea and let the form guide you through the poem. The sonnet has a very strong structure, so each line of the poem suggests the next line and even the line before it. Once you understand that, you do not have to worry about anything except worrying on the line you are on. If you capture clear imagery and follow the conventions of the form, that will be enough to create a strong poem. Thank you, John, for helping us be less scared of forms.
Thank you, Stephanie. I just put in the chat if you would email me and tell me where exactly to find that. I'd appreciate it. I will forget everything that happens after this event, which is part of why we record it, so I can rewatch it and remember what it is that I know that I'm going to forget as I get distracted by bright, shiny things out my window. And thank you so much for being here. And I didn't know if you wanted me to spotlight you or not, but you're welcome to take as much time as you want to speak right now.
Thank you, Trisha. I'm not much of a speaker. Everyone knows I sit in the back and John talks normally. I know John would be so touched that so many people are here, and I'm really touched, and I'm very grateful. If you see me darkening my screen, it's because I'm having some teary times. I just want to thank everybody for coming. This means so much to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anne. I always say this, I teach creative writing and people bring up really, tearjerker poems sometimes, but I'm always the editor. So I'm just thinking like, oh yeah, that is really good. That hits me, but I think you need to like change the verb tense, because I've got my editor brain on. When I'm not in editor capacity, I get very mushy. I will probably cry by the end of today. So just so we all know, this is an appropriate place to cry. It's fine. Okay. All right. Peggy, you're up, and after Peggy, it'll be Carrie.
Thank you. Talk about crying. But I'm in Sinclairville Library, and we were honored to have John come and devote his talents to us just so freely. So he was, a short presence for me, but very important. So in his presence, I felt swaddled in radiant joy, welcomed by his ready smile, inspired by his kind words, accepted for my imperfections. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Carrie, you're up.
Hi guys. This is a poem that I wrote for John. It's called I Still Have Plans with You, John Brantingham. I need to take your next class. Come back, teach me poetry so I can become a poet laureate like you. Nobody believes in me like you did. You're the first one to tell me my point of view matters. Even when I was an uneducated mother watching the world through windows, you said, you can do this. You are a writer. People need to read what's in your head. Bleed it all out onto a blank page. You said, go back to school, which I did, but you remained my best teacher, especially in matters of the soul. Eventually, I steered others the way you led me. And isn't that what life is? Taking your candle and lighting the next. You will never die, John. I'll see you in every hazy LA sunset, made breathless by smog. The ordinary magic that exists if only you amble with wonder. I'll look at the forest, made of tree after tree, connected at the roots. I'll write to make someone like me a little less lonely. This is what you taught us all. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Carrie. That's beautiful. And yeah, I got to limit my own commentary here. We're going to be here all afternoon, but that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Next is Beth Hadley, and then after that, it'll be Lisa Takata. So, Beth? Just got to make sure you unmute, Beth. There you go. Oh, not
Still
yet.
not unmuted. Click the little microphone in the corner. Do you see it?
Yeah,
There
there
you
we
go.
go. I think we got it. Yeah. Actually, so Paul Leone is here with me. A couple of us are here at the library, and Paul is going to read. There he is.
All righty. Well, John has been a really treasure to this Right Circle group at the Sinclairville Library. I want to read one of the poems from his latest publication. This is called Slowly Through the Grove. And these are 100 word poems. They are prose poems. And they speak to a really, really touching intimacy between John and Anne. And so I've just sort of, almost at random, chosen one of them to read that I think illustrates what I've just said. And this is called As Inevitable as a Comet. The comet's coming back around after 80,000 years. Some of the last people who saw it were Neanderthals. Maybe they held each other as they looked into the sky and saw that comet. I am Neanderthal, some small percentage of me. Maybe it is the same part that believes comets are omens, that the universe talks to me. Anne and I are somewhere here on the edge of the tundra, looking to the sky and telling each other that things will be better now. We tear up at this new thing. We do not worship it. We worship each other.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Lisa Takata, you are up, and Murray Thomas, you will be next.
Trisha, I don't know if you saw my message, but I just was wondering if I could read before 10.
Who's speaking?
This is Tiffany Elliott.
Yes, you know what? I'll have you after Murray Thomas.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lisa. It's so wonderful. I actually picked the facing poem to the one that was just read for the one I'd like to read today. It's on page 58. It's about death, but it's also about the continuity of life. It's called As Inevitable as Autumn. One day life is as it has been for months, and the next day the leaves are falling off my Japanese maple. I think for a moment that somehow I have killed it, and then I realize it's just the season. Autumn is, of course, inevitable as the eventual death of my maple years from now. Or maybe autumn is more inevitable, since it will happen again and again, and the tree will die only once. When I step back from my tree, cardinals land on it. They sing to it and to each other and to me. So, John and Ann, we love you, and it's a beautiful day for a hike over here at Sequoia.
Thank you, Lisa. Murray Thomas, are you still here? I can't see everyone all at once, and then if anyone.
I'm here, but I'm not going to read. I'm just going to pass.
Okay, thank you for being here, though, Murray. It's always great to see you. Tiffany, you're up.
Thank you. Sorry for being off camera. I'm in a good deal of pain, but I wanted to be here. John meant so much to so many of us and believed in a lot of us when we had trouble believing in ourselves. I met John in 2020 when the pandemic was at its height and started taking some classes from him. And the first book of his that I read was Life Orange to Pear, and it was just transformative. And I couldn't find my copy, but the piece that he has on his website is one of my favorites, and I'd like to read that one. It's called Pear. You're lying on the couch, pain's shooting through you. Cindy's in the next room making tea and cutting up a pear. You figure you have 2 months more to live if the doctors are right, and you're guessing they are. This, it seems, is probably a moment for contemplation, and when you think back to childhood, you realize your best memory is that pear you had one day when you were 4 or 5, the flavor more complex than any other fruit you'd ever had. Your dad handed it to you. You must have been on a trip because there was snow on the ground, but you lived in California. Cindy comes in and puts the plate with the cut up pear on the table next to you, and you say, you know, I think my earliest memory was of a pear. Yeah, she says, the one Grandpa gave you when you were a kid. She places the tea next to you, too. Why do you think I cut that up for you? You shake your head. When did I tell you about that? You thought you'd forgotten about it until just now. She looks up at the popcorn ceiling. I don't know. I was pretty little. You handed me a pear and told me about it. It's one of my favorite memories. So all right, you think. That's it. That's the circle. The only thing left is to eat your fruit and let everything happen as it's going to happen. You must have worked through the other 4 stages, you suppose. So you pick up a slice and lift it to your nose. It smells of childhood and love. You bite into its complexity and think about nothing.
I'm so glad you read that, Tiffany. That's a great poem. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't say who's next. So it's Margaret. If you're ready to read, I'll call on you, and Cora, you'll be after Margaret.
Hi, Anne. I have the beginning of a poem that I wanted to share. I taught with John, and the poem is called Teaching Next to John Brantingham. Laughter bursts, rolls, echoes through the walls. It's John, of course, teaching next door. I'm at the board talking about comma splices, God help me. I pause and can't help but smile. My students are grinning too. Sounds like they're having a good time, one says. And they were. John nurtured joy, fostered joy, embodied it in the classroom and out. In his office down the hall where aspiring young writers gathered. At Sequoia, where he introduced them both to poems and the deep pleasure of a night sky or a quiet walk up a dirt trail. But it is John's kindness and laughter that I will most remember, treasure, and miss as it continues to roll and echo through my life.
Thank you, Margaret. Really appreciate that. Cora is up, and then Cindy, you'll be next.
I didn't know John well. I'd just been in about 3 classes with him, but he left an impression. For someone who loves nature so much, he also seemed like a very natural dude, just a kind, welcoming, just and I got this book, Kid Dizzy, that Anne illustrated, and John wrote essays in there. And so this is from part of an essay called Etymology of a Forest. And it reminds me, reading it reminds me of the way John talks. Naming is the first act of love. I can feel that love all over the forest. People who had insights and saw things other people didn't see. I love the etymology of forest because that love seeps through the years and you see the world as others sees it. He talks about a giant rock formation called Homer's Nose, named not for the bard, but for someone's dog. There's a place called Hospital Rock, a tree named Colonel Charles Young. And plant names, his favorite is after a well-known botanist. It's called Bigelow's sneezeweed. At the very end, he says, I like to think of people finding small things that are personal and pouring their love into them. I like to think about how that love changed them. I like to see the world through their eyes.
Just wonderful, Cora. So glad you brought that one to our attention. Thank you. Cindy, you're next, and Joy, you're on deck. Sorry, Joy's Chow. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. All right, Cindy, you're up.
This poem is what came to my mind when I read that we were supposed to read something maybe about radical wonder. Color of creamed coffee is my name. Fog and amber swirl in a clear cup. I feel the torn blue places between thunderheads. See the ache of feelings grown arthritic, slow in waking, hesitant to stretch. I hear ballets of northern lights, shimmering, silky to the touch. Shy cliffs hide their faces. My laugh is a button. Come, smell the meadow calling. Invite daisies, lupin, to dust you with fragrance. Twilight hangs on the lip of evening. A crown of kisses waits for you. Listen, just baked bread, warmth rising, hints of allspice, ginger, nutmeg are playing Rachmaninoff.
Thank you, Cindy. Joy, you're up. Joyce and Anderson and Vicky, you'll be next.
Thank you. I feel like I'm in one of John's sessions. I try to come in really early and then I end up being late, and the catching up, all that feels so like a John session. And so I came up with, and it's his kind of prompt, and I came up with 2 lines and I go, okay, I'm gonna pass, but then I'm not because and also the feeling of, his prompts start out seem like something common, and then it draws something from you. And his is all about elevating something that you're not aware of in you. Okay. Our home. How would you like to live in a house in the forest? The real estate ad promoted, without a word of the Trans-Canada Highway rushing by from behind.
Thank you, Joyce. Appreciate that. Okay, I think it's Anders Carson and Vicky. It's cut off there.
Okay.
And Janet Alexander, you'll be next.
John, 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 John. In Sweden, you ring the bells for the soul of someone who's passed. It's so fresh. So this is a short poem. It's the shortest poem I've ever written. It's no words yet. John was the most important man. I love that man. And Chema and Lizzie, we love you. And we're up here in Canada by the lake. And I'm still flabbergasted. Big words, using $20 words. You don't need to use $20 words. I remember him saying that. You can use the little ones. So no words yet. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Janet, you're up, and Francesca Terzano, you'll be next.
Okay, I'd like to read something very short of my own and something short of John's. This is a poem that I wrote that John really loved, and he loved me when I wrote fewer words, which is a little ego deflating, but there it is. And this is from a poem about 3 artists visit my neighborhood. And this one is the Japanese artist Tarayaya Sotatsu. You walk towards me, shirt fluttering in the breeze, whiteness floating up in the twilight. A scattering of egrets rises off the lake. And this piece of John's that I'd like to read is from his book, Inland Empire Afternoon. And I love how John championed our area and the miraculous radical wonder in our area. And this chapter is called To Counsel the Doubtful, and it's set in Ontario, California. Trying to cross Haven Avenue in front of that terrible chain restaurant where Paul is sleeping it off, Moses has to laugh at himself. There was a time and place when he was so confident he could part the Red Sea. Now he can't even part traffic. He has to wait in the median in the middle of this swirling chaos until the cars pass, and he thinks about this new world. It's so easy to get caught up in the minutia that people forget that they are sacred, that all of this is sacred, that life and the world and everything are filled with potential and beauty. It's enough to make him weep for himself and all of these people who are blind to the immensity of it all. And thank you, John. Thank you for counseling the doubtful and for walking in radical wonder. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Francesca, you're up, and Karen Crocheron, you'll be on deck.
Okay, thank you. I'm Francesca, one of John's many former students. I took his creative writing class when I was 19, and he's been my mentor ever since. He also helped me get my adjunct job at Mount Sac, and the theme of my course is the hero's journey, and he helped me structure my course a lot. This is a poem that was published as a tribute to John on Silver Birch Press, and I haven't been able to get through it without crying, so I'm gonna try. It's called My Mentor on This Hero's Journey. On this journey, I felt I was alone until I met a man who was a wise Jedi come to life. In a hero's journey, the mentor usually dies, but I thought he would always be there to answer my texts, to read my stories, to be my father when my own yelled words of discouragement. He let me borrow his strength that shone ever so bright in his chest and be the father I needed in my times of sadness. He would make me laugh in times of anxiety, lift me in my darkest times when could not believe in myself. I was one of his many Padawans in writing, teaching, and life. He left us to continue this journey without him, but carry his light. He spread to many and share it with those we inspire in life. I stay up late at night thinking about how he will not see the great moments that remain in my journey. However, maybe this is his final lesson to me, to not be afraid of my own success. So I will continue on my quest because his light and strength lives in me. And at journey's end, I hope to see my friend, my teacher, my father again.
Thank you so much, Francesca. I said Karen is next, but she's disappeared off the screen. Karen, are you still here? Karen, yes, you are, but you don't want to read. That's totally fine. Um, hmm, Tammy, I'm gonna popcorn to you in just a second, but I do also just want to say on the subject of teaching, um, I was lucky I got to be in one workshop with John, I think once. But I know that he really encouraged so many other poets and teachers, and part of what we want to do at the Poetry Salon is encourage more people to do that. And so I'm just going to let everyone know one of our community uh, opportunities that's on donation basis is a workshop on teaching. So if you've ever thought about teaching poetry, or you're like, oh, can I do that? How do you even teach poetry? I'd really encourage you to come take that. You'll get some basic tools that help you facilitate, and you'll get some ideas about where you might bring a poetry teaching. There's all kinds of places, libraries, you can do it for free. You can volunteer at, your kid or grandkids' schools. You can do it for profit. You can do all kinds of things. But I will be sharing some of the basic tools that I learned in my psychology of creativity practice. And I think a lot of them are in alignment with some of John's principles as well. And again, that is all donation based. So please register for that. I'll put the link in the chat in just a moment. Okay, we interrupt this
Excuse me a
commercial
minute,
break.
Risha.
Yeah.
Risha. Tiffany has asked, uh, will the recording be shared and where can we find it? So
Oh, yes,
I
thank you so much for asking, Tiffany. Yeah, I'll be posting it on our YouTube channel. You don't need to subscribe to anything in order to see it, but if you want to get the email that lets you know it's up and lets you know about everything else, you can subscribe to my Substack, which is the Poetry Salon stack.substack.com, and I'll put that in the chat as well. Salonstack.substack.com. Okay. With that said, Tammy, you are up. Kate Flannery, you'll be called on next if you want to share.
Okay, I met John through the Poetry Salon, probably about 4 workshops, and he encouraged me to submit poetry several places, including the Journal of Radical Wonder. So I'm going to read one of the poems he published in the Journal of Radical Wonder. I wrote it maybe about 5 years ago after a little backpacking trip. It's called Leave No Trace. On the stepping stones that cross the creek, your boot left tracks, thin as cat whiskers. Leave no trace, they say, and though one day we will leave no trace, for now we pack out trash and secure our gear on limbs sturdy as the saplings the beavers gnaw for their lodge. One day we will leave no trace, but even so, I like to believe we will leave behind something of who we were, something of who we hoped to be. Thank you.
Lovely, Tammy. Thank you so much. Kate Flannery, you are up, and Robert Piluso, you are on deck.
Thank you, Tresha. And hello to Anne and Shema and Lizzie, sending you love. I want to read something that John really encouraged me to write. He was continuing to encourage me to write about music and nature. And this is from a collection that I worked on with John and with Ken Johnson. It's called Mockingbird. You can chase a mockingbird's song forever, trying to locate pitch and repeat and pattern, wanting a familiar tune to return and complete itself. But you will become lost in the purposeful trilling of the bird, the lyric warbling, the soft thrums and clipped calls, nothing repeated, non sequitur wandering in after non sequitur. You will not find certainty in the mockingbird's song, but especially in the evening shade with the sun lowering and the scent of summer flowers, the mockingbird will repeat its song and will come to you again.
Lovely, Kate. Thank you for sharing. Robert, you're up, and Aaron Gray, you're on deck.
Hello, can folks hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Tricia, for hosting this space for John today. I'm Robert. I taught with John for many years at Mount San Antonio College in the creative writing program, which he founded and led for over 20 years. We're sending love to Anne and Shema and Lizzie. And I would like to read from John's book of poems, Gone Back to Wild. This is called Miracles Near Cherry Creek. Today's miracle is that last night's rain melted the snow. All that water flowed downhill until the marsh flooded all the way up to where I stand at the side of the road, little waves lapping my shoes and the call of a heron echoing off tree trunks around me. Today's miracle is the tiny rings of raindrops on the surface of the marsh and the dance they make in my eyes. Today's miracle is me here in this place thinking about rain and herons and marshes. Today's miracle is the living now, seeing the moment for what it is.
Thank you, Robert. Aaron, you are next, and on deck is J.L. Martindale.
All right. Well, I had the opportunity of meeting John through poetry classes at the Sinclairville Library, and I just wanted to say I am so grateful to have the caliber of teaching and just the information that John was able to share with our little town. We very much appreciate it, and just to have three artists, John, Anne, and Shema, just share with us has been wonderful. So the poem I'd like to read is also from Gone Back to Wild, and it's on page 66, In a Small Town. I am sitting on the front step reading the mail when a fox comes down the sidewalk. This kind of sacred moment comes only with silence, and I am usually too loud. Humans are in love with their own voices, which is a blessing to foxes who are devoted to privacy. He stops at the corner and looks both ways, as if to make sure no one is coming, and then moves on, commuting to wherever it is that foxes go. I forget about the mail for a while and stare into the warm blue sky, free at last from conversation. Thank you.
Fabulous, Erin. Thank you so much. Jael Martindale, you are up, and Allison Woodhouse, you're on deck.
I didn't know if I was going to read today, but I miss John, so I'm going to read the piece from Slowly Through the Groves that broke me when I started rereading it after the news. It's on page 7, if you guys are following along in the book. The mailbox is gone too. Down at the end of the gravel road, I walk up to a house with its roof collapsed in on itself. I try to guess when the family that lived there decided that was enough and picked up and left. Beech trees haven't taken over the farm field. It's a meadow now, butterflies and flowers. So maybe 5 years? I am here, I suppose, for no real reason except to gape at what nature does to all of us. The house is being churned slowly into the soil, becoming the earth once more. I wonder if I find that beautiful.
Thank you so much. Oh, Allison Woodhouse. Oh, hold on just a second. Yeah, Allison Woodhouse, you're up, and then Shema, you'll be next.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for hosting this, Trisha. I met John once over in Bristol in the UK at the Flash Fiction Festival, and he was a warm, gorgeous presence, wonderful man to have at our festival. And I saw his call out for the renewal of the Journal of Radical Wonder. I'd spent a few months in Austin, Texas, and I was feeling very lost, and I'd written some very dark and scary things. And I decided to try something different in response, and I wrote it on the last day of the call out, and he came straight back to me and said, I love it. And I'd never had such a warm response ever. So this is for John, and thanking him for getting me to look up. Despite everything, has the hopping crow's back ever been as shiny blue-black, and the wild wisteria clambering the branches of the oak and cedar ever been so fragrant? And despite everything, have the children ever swarmed so undeterred by the gathering clouds on their parents' brows, who scroll their phones, checked into the ocean floor, scuttling in search of pearls that are no more? Despite everything, has the cherry blossom ever risen in such a great cloud of effervescence? And aren't the nanotechs cleaning our coral and cancers, even as we protest the robot baristas? And while they siphon our rain for the bottomless data centers, didn't we all screen save the super bloom in Death Valley, exhaling a breath we hadn't known we were holding? One thing does not always have to mean another. Our clocks are set to tick-tick boom, but despite everything, here we are again, among the bluebonnets, watching the soft green curlicues unfurling. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, next on up is Shema, and on deck is Daniel.
So John was my dad, and I think he was a lot of our dads. And he was, I can't even say all the stuff he was, but he was an amazing father and friend and teacher. He was an amazing writer and inspirer and community builder. And so many other things I can't even think about right now. I haven't been, like Anders was saying, I haven't been able to write anything. And I was going to read, we were working on a bunch of stuff, and I wanted to read something I wrote about transition. And then I started looking through some of the stuff we wrote, which I also haven't been able to do. And I found this. And so it was in our collection that was going to be about night poems, and it's called Appalachia of My Memory Dream. I wake to the sound of rain and ice slipping off my roof, which is steaming now, or so I assume, because all the roofs I can see from my window steam into air, like apparitions fleeing the place where they died of violence. It's like this, up and down the street, and all over Appalachia, or so I think. Still half asleep, I think. The dead are leaving us to ourselves. I think I'll miss them.
Thank you, Shayla. Thank you so much.
Sorry, it's not done. I just had to take a moment. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Okay. Whew. I think the dead are leaving us to ourselves. I think I'll miss them. I beg them in my mind, take me with you, so we can flee together. All go to some distant shore, that place you can see almost through the mist, that place with white cliffs and a white beach and maple trees that red, yellow, and coral themselves in a permanent autumn, and the woods are the dripping quiet of November. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. All right, Daniel, you're up, and Lavina, you'll be next if you want to share something.
John was my, like many people here, he was my professor when I was at college 20 years ago. And since then, we started to play a game that I would invite you all to continue playing. And it's a game called First Star. The rules are simple. I mean, it's just you look out for the first star of the night and you point at it and you scream out first star. And you don't win until you do the first star dance. And it has to be the ridiculous, just whatever joy you have. And so I have so many fond memories of John always winning, always beating me at the game and doing these great dances. It's just with a lot of joy. Um, and the other person just, has to pretend to be angry, and I'd pretend to be angry and all that. Or if I win, he would pretend to be angry. And so we play the game. That's basically it. Just look out for the first star, point at it. And so I wrote this, and it's called First Star. This is how you did it. Bursting out before the sky was ready, shouting first star as if naming it made it appear. We pretended to be angry because that was part of it, because losing was part of the joy, because the dance mattered more than winning. And you knew that. You always knew where to stand so the light would catch first. Tonight, I look too early. I say nothing. I let the sky win. Thanks.
Thank you, Daniel. Lavina, you're next, and then Savannah Hernandez, you'll be on deck.
Well, John was an inspiration for me. He was always encouraging. He'd always, no matter what anyone wrote, they wrote it from their heart, I think, because he was there guiding them. And he was always positive about that, whatever they wrote. Always said terrific or wonderful, great. And he listened carefully. He focused on what was in that writing. So he always had something to say that he could say specifically. And he was a good listener, which, I really admired. He was the person who told me I should send this weird collection of mine to Bamboo Dart, and they wanted it. So that was thrilling. It's my first book, chapbook. And he published, I think, 6 of the poems in the Journal of Radical Wonder. I'm going to just read one of them. I think this was in one of the ones he took. Maybe not. What I Know. And I'll just say quickly, I took books off my shelf, took words, first and last lines usually, and I just made a poem up out of that word set. So it is an odd collection, but John championed it. So What I Know. It was the window told up distance, nothing to do with a thunderous rattle or a last stunned sky. All natural, wave and breeze, no harbor, nothing to do with fathers working toward the answer, the sweet white afterlife, dancing a mile above the sycamores, echoes and weeping ended. The hooked heart stellar, nights and mornings open to the moment, heedless of the body's disappearance. So I think John would want us all to just keep in touch with the natural world, continue to write from our hearts. And I thank you for hosting this celebration of John.
Good to see you again, Lavina, and congratulations about the chapbook.
Thank you.
I also quite enjoy your poems, and I also think they are quite worth reading. So everyone get Lavina's book as well. Okay, Savannah, you're up, and then Margaret Wallen, you'll be on deck.
Hello. Same thing. I'm gonna try to kind of keep it together the best I can. Like Francesca, I took John's class for the first time when I was 19. I've always kind of been in his orbit. Oh my gosh, I tried. So I consider him like my mentor of 10 years. Whenever I got lost or confused or I didn't know where to do, he was always ready to help me be in touch. He introduced me to a bunch of amazing people, and every so often he would reach out, invite me to things, especially because I'm kind of introverted and shy, especially in the beginning. So I have a lot of thanks and gratitude to him. I don't really have a lot of things that I wrote similar to his daughter. Nothing feels right enough with my own words, but I found a poem in his book, Gone Back to the Wild, that I'm kind of reflecting on in terms of it's about him remembering boats. And when I go to read it, I keep thinking that we are the boats he sent out. And I also like to think that he's a boat that's still floating beyond the horizon. It's called Conwango Creek. The creek spills after a rain, and I think about how we used to make paper boats and then bet on whose would last longest before sinking or getting tangled in the reeds on the shore. We'd always lose track of whose was whose, and then a couple would pass out of sight. I'd imagine them making it to the river, and then I didn't know where. I think about them now, those boats that never sank as far as I could see. They are still floating somewhere in the ocean, and I am still setting them off to sea. So, thank you.
Thank you, Savannah. Yeah, that's fantastic. And I love that way of thinking about it. We're all still the boats, and we're all carrying on. It's a beautiful metaphor. All right, Margaret, you are up, and Andrew Hughes, you'll be next.
I maybe I read out of turn earlier, but I've already read.
You did. No, what happens is I'm just going through the list here, but as people leave and come on, everything shuffles around. So if I accidentally call on one person a second time,
All right.
do what Margaret did, fess up, don't just take more time to read. Thank you, Margaret. All right, Andrew, you're up, and I think Tony Barnstone is next.
Hi guys, can you hear me? Okay, so I'm not gonna read today because my primary mode of writing is really kind of dark horror stories, so I think that would not really set the tone well here. But I did want to talk just for a second about John because I think, and this sounds silly to say to a room full of writers, but growing up, I really wanted to be a writer. In my early 20s, I had a couple publications, but I had no idea what I was doing. And I met John through, I was submitting to some magazine that he was the editor for at the time. I want to say it was Chiron Review, maybe. And I was in Nashville, and this told me, "Hey, the story's not quite right, but if you want to come out to California and live in the woods for 2 weeks, we can work on this." And all the people in my life were like, "You're gonna go get murdered in the woods. You are. This is the bad decision." But I went. I drove cross country, and I don't know. Looking back, thank God that I did, because John, I think Savannah and Francesca kind of said it best, that I don't know quite how it happened or when it happened, but just over the course of years, he became like this friend, this father figure, this really so many different things that um, guiding me like personally. I mean, through relationships. One of the stories that I think won over my wife was a story that came from that trip. And then also like with writing, he was always reading my things. The cover of my first book is a piece of art that Anne drew. And then professionally helping me, like just kind of just coaching me. And I don't know if that's just what a mentor is. I don't know, but John was incredible, and I've never really met anyone like him. And I don't know. It's been difficult, but I miss him. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. All right, Tony Barnstone, you're next, and then Cindy, you're on deck.
Great. Hi, can you guys hear me?
Mhm.
All right. I've been a little weepy, so let me see if I can get through this. John was an old friend, and it's hard to think of him in the past tense because he was so present, always. Our mutual friend, Scott Creeley, sent me a text when he passed. I was having a beautiful day on Catalina Island with my family, going ziplining with my son, and then this sorrow came in the middle of it. So I ended up writing John a poem. It's called The Gift. The time has come now when I realize the open-handed world is closing to a fist. Electric pain that wires through my shoulder, glaze that hangs before my eyes, knees rusting out, that all the gifts it gave were lent at best. Nights at the Edison and Liquid Kitty gone with friends gone in a gone past, and the future looks more grave. Today, I leap into the weightless sky, plummet toward the canyon floor, and scream, tempting life to snatch me from its dream. But zipline toward the platform, and I don't die. High five, kiss the top of my son's head, joke with the British tourists, check my phone, and read Scott's message. Our old friend John is gone. He fell asleep last night and died in bed. Later, I'm crying in a coffee shop, remembering his childlike joy at giving, throwing back his head to laugh, living to spend what isn't spent, what doesn't stop when we are stopped, to give his famous heart to Anne, to students, friends, and lucky me. Until his heart gave out, he gave it free, happy until the end, or else the start.
It's a lovely tribute, Tony. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right, Cindy, you are up. Cindy N, if you want to say anything, and then Allison R, Allison Roski, you're after that.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm grateful to be here. As I wrote a little tribute to John. I'm not a poet, but I met him through Culturama. I took many classes or when he was hosting, and I think I took one private class with a lot of teachers there, and I had imposter syndrome, and he kind of made me feel really good. And he asked if he could read my piece to the class because I used some technique that I didn't even know I wrote, that I did. So he just made me feel good. He made me a better writer. And it was kind of a weird little piece called Madonna and Me, Late Night Musings on Youth, Aging, and Red Spike Heels. So it was weird. And he was okay with it. So I wrote, John was a teacher in the truest sense of the word, the kind who opened doors for other writers and showed us what was possible on the page. He taught many, and I feel lucky to have learned from him too. One of the things he taught me that stayed was the idea of breaking the fourth wall, not just as a technique, but as a way of reaching straight through the page and connecting. Truthfully, I did not even realize I was doing it. John helped me see that. He helped me understand that writing does not always have to stand back and behave. Sometimes it gets to lean in, speak directly, and let the reader feel the person behind the words. That was a gift. Writers and teachers like John leave their mark in so many ways. They leave it in their own work. He gave me permission to be braver, more honest, and more alive on the page. I will remember him with gratitude, and I know I am not alone in that. His words, his teaching, and his generosity will live on in the many writers here. And I'll pass on that. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Cindy. Absolutely. Bu- 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 bu. I think Allison, you're next, and then after that, it will be Michelson Knapp.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. I'm sitting in the same spot where I used to sit when I was taking a workshop with him online after he moved to New York. So I only knew John vaguely at first, and still, I'm sure, like compared to most people here, I didn't know him very well. But I saw him around campus a lot at Mount San Antonio College. At one point, I would run into him because I was in a classroom that he also taught in. I was in a tutoring capacity, and so I would run into him a lot. I worked with professors who told me I should take his class, and then I ended up after he moved to upstate New York, I ended up taking a class with him. And I just felt like a good camaraderie with him because I also used to live in New York and I went to grad school in New York. And it was just so much fun and such a privilege to be able to know him and take his classes and feel his encouragement. He was such an encouraging teacher. He was so encouraging. Um, and it's just beautiful to remember that about him. And I ordered his book Slowly Through the Grove, which is wonderful. I love the size of it. I had a lot of fun reading it. I took this spontaneous trip out to the desert, and I brought a bunch of books with me, and the only one I really read was Slowly Through the Grove. So I think I'll read a piece from there. There's actually three that stood out, but I guess in the interest of time, I'll pick this one because it's called Fox on Quaker Lake. And I appreciate that Walter shared that and reminded me that John did say that he was, I guess, descended from Quakers as part of his heritage. So, Fox on Quaker Lake. The fox crossing Quaker Lake, now frozen over, can't possibly know that I'm standing in the trees on the bank watching him. He's almost all the way across. I don't move. I do not want to spook him and make him run back because I can hear my daughter's voice, the way she calls animals buddy, the way she coos at any creature that walks or crawls. A warm storm's coming in from the Gulf of Mexico. In a little while, that ice will melt. I think, a little faster, buddy. I won't move until you're safely on the shore. I just love that. I think it says so much about him as a person, how kind and generous he was, and how thoughtful and how much he cared about all creatures and how much he loved nature. And so I'm just really grateful that I was able to know him. I was looking forward to taking his ekphrasis class this spring, but um, instead I'm looking forward to reading more of his work now. And his presence remains. And I'm just so grateful that I had a chance to know him. And thank you for letting me share that.
Thank you, Allison. Really appreciate that. I think I said Michael's son. Nap, you're next, and then Melanie, you're on deck.
No, I'm not reading.
Okay. So Michelson, you're next.
Hi, all. John shaped a lot of my life, uh, continues to do so. I thought I would read a poem um, of his or that I read many years ago that sort of reshaped his reading of it. Um, I don't know if I'll be able to uh, alter it again. With, John's poem, Putting in a Window. Carpentry has a rhythm that should never be violated. You need to move slowly, methodically, never trying to finish early, never even hoping you'd be done sooner. It's best if you work without thought of the end. If hurried, you end up with crooked door joints and drafty rooms. Do not work after you are annoyed, just so the job will be done more quickly. Stop when you begin to curse at the wood. Putting in a window should be a joy. You should love the new header and the sound of your electric screwdriver as it secures the new beams. The only good carpenter is the one who knows that he's not good. He's afraid that he'll ruin the whole house, and he works slowly. It's the same as cooking or driving. A good cook knows humility, and his souffle never falls because he is terrified that it will fall the whole time he's cooking. The good driver knows that he might plow into a mother walking her 3-year-old and so watches for them carefully. The good carpenter knows that his beams might be weak and a misstep might ruin the place he loves. In the end, you find your own pace and you lose time. When you started, the sun was high, and now that you're finished, it's dark. Tomorrow, you might put in a door. The next day, you'll start on your new day.
Trisha, you're muted.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, I think the next person we have up is Laura Watley and Kathy O'Fallon. You're next after Laura. Laura, are you there?
I'm gonna pass.
Okay, that's fine. Kathy, you're next, and then Corla, you're on deck.
Thank you. I didn't know John and I didn't know his work. I saw this invitation on Facebook and I don't know why I felt called to be here, but I'm so glad I'm here. And I think the tears are for what I've missed in not knowing him, never having had a father like that. But I'm so glad to have heard all of you and to have heard some of his work. And I just thought, well, I'll read this poem that kind of reminds me of what I'm experiencing today.
Yes.
This is from my most recent collection called Variations on a Theme of Love. This is called Before the Metaphor Dies. Someone tossed watermelon seeds under the lemon trees. Neighbors warn illegals live in the groves. Rumor drugs. Ungroomed, a few acres of land between $1 million homes. My dog's favorite spot to lift his leg. A wet spring, the seeds sprout into tributaries, their fingers stretching along the ground and up the lemon trunks like the famous beanstalk. Megaphone leaves roaring from their plumage, overshadowing the teardrop foliage, bulbs swelling overnight, dwarfing the sun-yellow fruit. But somehow the branches bear the watermelon's full weight, support them until they're ripe, until free food is offered up. The Statue of Liberty at work, despite what people say.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Uh, who did I say was next? Poor like you're next.
Hi. So I'm not a poet, so I'm not going to read anything, but I did want to say a little bit. I've been harassing John on and off for over 20 years. He let me spend an entire semester sitting in his office as like an extra class and pester him after I wrote my first novel. Throughout all those years, he was so supportive and encouraging, always with a smile on his face or a booming laugh. The stories he'd tell me of how he met Anne and the love that shone in his eyes every time she dropped by. He was the mentor I needed as a young 20-something. He's the mentor I still needed 20 years later in the journey with my next novel. I will never forget his chastisement of my glass half empty attitude, and I will try to live as he would have liked, glass half full instead, not letting my pessimistic attitude hinder me going forward. That's all.
Thank you so much. I've gotten totally lost in the list. I think Dennis, you're going to be on, you'll be next, and then Colleen Henry, you'll be on deck. If you're needing a second to get prepared, I just want to say, those of you who have said, well, I'm not a poet, listen, writer, novelist, journal writer, student, nature enthusiast, whatever, you're welcome to be here. And we're all here sharing an experience, a human experience, whether you're capturing it in prose or capturing it by picking carrots and making soup, whatever it is, it's different names for kind of the same community that we cultivate together. So with that said, Dennis Kalachi, did you want to say something? Going once, going twice. Maybe Dennis is away from the computer. Colleen, you're on deck, or you're next.
Hi, everyone. So I started my writing journey January this year. The idea came in 2017. So I guess in 7 years, as the title of my reflective piece, Fluttering Butterfly, I fluttered. And I came across John on Reedsy just March, I think March 5th. And I contracted him on March 9th. He did the editing for my upcoming manuscript, and he completed it March 15th. And I'm glad I did not refuse the Zoom invite for the book review, And, on March 18th, I'm just vividly just remembering just sitting across from him on my computer screen And as the book is now with the designer, I decided that it's time to start the second edition in the series. So I reached out to John on April 2nd. I didn't go through the regular route. I just messaged him on Reetsy, and I did not hear from him. Saturday, I said, "Oh, I haven't heard from John." And then I said, okay, maybe it's easier observing Easter again. I just met him. I don't know nothing much really about him, his spiritual, religious background. And I said, maybe he's observing Easter. So I'll give him some time. And then Tuesday, I just got up and said, no, this is far too long. So I did like what any human would do, and I went looking for him on social, send him a message on IG, send him a message on Facebook, that sent a message on LinkedIn, and then I went on Facebook and scrolling through, and the tears came out. I just met him less than a month, and I just couldn't believe it, and so I'm going to be doing a tribute in my acknowledgement to him in my upcoming book. But I just want to read this little thing I put together for him. For John, we met only briefly, but it did not feel small. There was a quiet steadiness in you, something felt even without words. The geese return in March as if nothing is lost, only carried forward in ways we don't always see. They say you had a way of entering a room without asking, and still everything shifted. They say your words stayed softly long after they were read, like a butterfly passing, not hurried, not loud, just enough to be felt before it moved on. And somehow the hair is different because it did. Some people pass through, you will remain. A gentle reminder that even a moment can leave something lasting. Rest softly, John. So I want to thank you, Tricia, for putting this together. And I just met him less than a month, and you had 35 plus years with him. And I've encountered what you have been encountered in that brief time, and he will forever live in my heart. And I just want to extend my condolences to you, Shema, and Lizzie, and to the entire poet writer fraternity. God bless.
Thank you, Colleen. I really, boy, do I really hear that, because I was, John was someone I was really looking forward to getting to spend more time with, and went on Facebook first thing in the morning, still very bleary-eyed and seeing all the posts and just going like, something must be wrong. They can't have passed. He has plans to read at the poetry salon. It's just, so it was quite a shock. But of course, I am grateful that for myself that I got to meet him as briefly as I did before it was too late. I'm sorry. I'm again completely falling down in keeping track of who has and hasn't read. I think the next person who hasn't read is Michael Field, and after that, Hedy Habra. Michael, are you there still?
Yes,
There we go. Good.
I'm in kind of a noisy background, but I met John in an event section at Chicago a couple of years ago, and immediately just got drawn into his web. So I was part of his his Wednesday poetry writing group, and was in his Friday office hour group where we would review people's works. And so whenever I submitted anything, the first thing John would say is, "Oh, that's good. Now compress it 30%." So I decided to do a haiku for him since I can't compress that anymore. So it's titled JMB: Snow-capped mountaintops, white hair, kind eyes, sharp mind, gone. Cheshire smile remains.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. Yeah, cut it by 30%. Well, what if it's a haiku? All right, Hedy, you're next, and Scott Creeley, you're on deck. Hedy, are you there? Going once, going twice. All right, Scott Creeley, and then I'll call on Amanda Moore. Scott, are you there? Going once, going twice. Amanda, what about you?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, great.
So I've known John for about 3 years. But and I never met him in person, but he became such a big part of my life. And with his I'm on the West Coast, and so his early morning publishing hours, I would meet him at 7 a.m. my time, and it would just be such a refreshing, joyful experience to chat with him in the morning before I had to head off to work or do whatever I needed to do. And he was, as so many people have said, he was so uplifting. He was so encouraging. He introduced me to so many other wonderful people. He championed my writing. He was always encouraging me to submit and publish, like he does with pretty much, I bet, everyone he meets. And he's always about teaching the things teaching in a way that is with love and with empathy and kindness, and teaching things that were not taught to him. So he always talks about how he wasn't taught how to publish. And so he makes it a mission to teach his students how to publish so that they can, so that they don't have to struggle to figure something out, and he was really like that. He was really about like so much, giving so much. I mean, I asked him, I was planning to teach, we've connected on a lot of things, and one of the things was teaching, because I teach English in the Inland Empire. And I hope to have the opportunity to teach a creative writing class someday. And I asked him for tips. And I'm so glad that I did, because I have all of his advice scrawled on a notepad next to my workstation. Um and it was just so wonderful to hear what he thought about teaching, and to learn from him as a mentor. um oh yes, I see the donation-based teacher workshop. I do want to join that, yes. But it has been so wonderful, and my heart goes out to Anne and Shema and Lizzie, and everyone who knew him and loved him. And I just want to read a piece that I wrote about him, which I feel like could never be good enough, but but I did want to honor him, and it's titled "Reminders of You" for John Brantingham. I cry with every poem I read online pinned about you. I savor every piece of your writing shared, glimpses into the multitudes that were contained in you, a great man who taught and mentored so many, including me. I hesitate before going into my office now. No longer will I hear you greet me on Zoom for those treasured early 7 a.m. chats. Everywhere, reminders of you. John's publishing hours, pinned on every Friday in my calendar. A Google folder of poetry prompts that you wrote and I never got around to completing. Your comments on my poetry and flash pieces, waiting for me to revise. I open my email and see your newsletters, curated with lists of places to publish, a sign of your generosity. I open one of your email messages, a link to the music video Institutionalized by Suicidal Tendencies, still in my inbox. You asked, "Did you hate it?" Later, you laughed when I admitted I did. It was too punk for me to fully appreciate. I see your song recommendations on a sticky note next to my keyboard. John Denver's Annie's song. I found this one beautiful, and now I will always think of you and your beautiful Anne when I hear it. Your advice for teaching creative writing is scrawled on my notepad. Show them they belong and their voices matter. Your advice echoes what I've learned from your practice. It's exactly what you've done for me, for so many, and in all of us. May you live on. Thank you.
Mm. I'm glad you took notes. I'm really glad you took notes. Thank you. Um, Have I missed anyone? Does anyone want to speak who hasn't spoken yet?
I changed my mind. Yeah, I would like to read something.
Melanie, go ahead.
This is called John. Oh. No, I don't know if I can get through this. I'm sorry. Okay, John, my grandfather's name, my uncle's name, another uncle, the French one, Jean, two cousins with this name. So I grew up knowing its meaning as gift of God. John, Juan, Jean, Giovanni, Johann, Hans, Ivan, Sean, Ian. May all those so named bless the world in wonderful ways, as one John has done. Selah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Melanie, for sharing that. Would anyone else like to go who hasn't gone yet? Okay. All right. Yeah, I think I'll just say this, I think collectively we all know John better than any one of us singularly. I'm not even sure if that's a word. But I really appreciate all of you coming and sharing not only poems but also memories. JL, yes.
I think Scott has returned and he wanted to read, so I wanted
Thank
to.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, I'm
Yes, Scott, go
actively
ahead, please.
thank you. I was panicking. I'm driving down to a job that John helped me get 15 years ago. And I'm gonna teach things that John taught me, and it's really moving to be able to listen to all of you talk about him as I go down to do that. I work with I've known John since I was 19, like many other people in here, and I took his first class, and he changed my life, and we've gone on to do a lot of things together across my entire adult life. Like Daniel, who was reading here, John was the officiant at my wedding, and I'm one of the many people that whose lives he's changed fundamentally. And I was a first generation college student. I do not know what I would look like if I had not met John. John and Anne are the voices in my head that I hear when I have to do serious things, but also when I want to be silly, when I want to enjoy life, when I reflect on the things that I love. They're the people that I hear. And so it's very moving to hear all the different ways that John has impacted all of you guys. And I'm so lucky to have known him and therefore get to know all of you. That was one of John's great gifts. He was unrelentingly himself, no matter the situation, and that brought all of us together because that let us be ourselves and for us to have the comfort to engage with the things that he wanted to teach us. And so the day that I'd heard that John died from Annie, I called Tony, and Tony went and wanted poetry from John to honor John at a reading that was occurring on the Whittier College campus that day. And I'm going to read the poem that I sent Tony that's from about 20 years ago, and is from maybe the middle of John's career. And John published this among other places, but he published it in the place that published my first poem that I ever had published. And I was so proud to be alongside John, my teacher that I admired so much. And this is such an incredible poem, and I think it captures John really well. So bear with me because I am on a phone. I'm going to pull up this poem and I'm going to read it. And Tony read this to the Whittier College campus the other day, and I'm going to read it for you all now. It's called Los Angeles. My love for you, King Smog, is the love of an old woman for an old man. I love you with all of your faults, even sometimes because of your faults. I love your freeways, your 5, 405, 605, the 105, your 10, 210, 110, 710. and for your pesticide beaches choked with human waste, too dangerous to bathe in, but too beautiful not to. I love you for your LACMA and Mocha and Getty and your free jazz concerts and your expensive jazz concerts. I love you, even when your hills burn orange sherbet, when you quake your buildings down, and when your murderous hot winds come just when I thought the summer heat was gone. I love you for torrential rains and mudslides and strip malls and romances. I love you when your air creeps in on little cat claws, climbing on my chest, choking me with methane breath. I love you for your insane Friday afternoons. Everyone on a mission somewhere, everyone on a mission somewhere, and no one moving anywhere. I love you for Claremont, Santa Monica, Beverly Hills, Northridge, and Long Beach, even when Long Beach Harbor smells like a dirty dish rag, 3 days gone. And even though I've said I will leave you, Lord Smog, the first chance I have, I think I'll stay with you until they scatter my ashes on Pacific Coast Highway, and the desert winds blow me into the infinity of your endless suburbs. And that is such a John poem. John loved everything while also acknowledging its silliness, its goofiness, its flaws when we had pollution. And because he was a mindful guy, he found ways to love those things too, while acknowledging them. Thank you for hosting this, and thank you for circling back to me and Annie, Shama, Lizzie. I have been thinking about you guys and all of our friends here, and I love you all. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, one more time. Is there anyone we missed?
I think Laura possibly wanted to read something. I know that she's having a hard time, but I wanted to give her the space.
Laura?
Yes.
Go ahead,
Hi.
please.
I what's funny is I was trying to dig through my books to read the same poem that Scott just read. And but fortunately I misplaced the book that came from. So I just wanted to read this one poem. And when I first planted my pollinator garden, I was so excited to see green bees, and I thought that they were so amazing. And I posted on Instagram, I was like, "They're green bees." So this one kind of like spoke to me a little bit. Um, it's called The Greening of Creatures. It's in Slowly Through the Grove on page 86. You don't imagine green bees until you spot one landing on the yellow rose. They might be common, but you'd never heard of them, never considered their metal bodies. Now that illusion is destroyed, bees no longer monolithically the same to you, like the first time you saw a stick bug as a child or a satellite you at first thought was a star, and then it scooted through space. You think nothing tiny on the face of the earth is knowable, and nothing above you in space is. All of that is fine and beautiful now that it's new. Um, I was about to share some like thoughts, but I don't think I can make them. I don't think I can hold it together for that. So I'm gonna just stop
now. Thank you, Laura. And yeah, I mean, it's fine to take some time to process. Thank you for sharing what you did. Anyone else want to read or share? All right. I'll just close this out by saying again, thank you everyone for being here. I've heard a lot of these great reflections on John. And I want to say thank you to one of the first people who shared, who mentioned that John taught Evo, that John taught you about Lord of the Rings and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I actually wanted to write an essay. Been thinking a lot about Lord of the Rings the last 2 years. I actually didn't read it, but suddenly I've gotten really interested in like hobbits and good and evil, and thinking about why it's the hobbits who have to destroy the ring. Sorry if this is a spoiler alert for anyone. But I was just thinking about John and how he sort of embodies this, you know, maybe all poets, but John especially is a real strong example of someone who, loves the little things and is appreciative of things like friendship, and can be very content. The impression I get of him is that he could be very content with, some potatoes and the Shire, and that everything is kind of in service of preserving those pleasures that are really natural and wholesome. And so I just have been thinking about how all poets sort of do that. We're an art form that isn't trying to be taking over the world, and where we're very generous with each other, and we want to inspire each other and encourage each other and listen to other poets and learn from one another. And that's really um, the world that's worth fighting for. And paradoxically, it's the people who want that world who are not likely to start fights. Isn't that kind of funny? Isn't that kind of paradoxical maybe? So John, I think, really just embodies that a lot. And thank you everyone for also following suit with that. You know, uh as a poetry mentor, I'm always telling people, I think a lot of what I'm sure John said, it's, yeah, the world needs your voice, and then maybe you don't think you're so good, but keep writing. And I find a lot of the challenge with writing is getting out of your way and getting past asking those questions like, am I good or bad, or will anyone like this, and just focusing on the writing, or whatever the writing is pointing to, a really great pear, watching the moon rise, those kinds of things. And if anyone feels that way about writing and about teaching, I want to say it's kind of the same thing. I frequently don't refer to myself as a writing teacher, but I facilitate creative writing. And if anyone feels like they like this, they like what people like John offer, but you think maybe, well, I can't do that. Well, again, I really want to encourage you to get past that kind of thinking, because I think we need more people who are creating communities around the arts. And if you have an interest in it, please don't let fear of not being perfect get in the way. I've been doing this for 20 years. It sometimes pays my bills and sometimes doesn't, but either way, I always feel enriched and rewarded by doing this kind of work. And I have a free workshop coming up on the 27th. And I put the link to that in the chat. And then I have a workshop that's specifically for teaching for mentors, and that's donation based, and that's coming up as well. And yeah, we're here to support each other. We're here to support the arts in general. We're here to support the earth, the writing. Um, and that's one of many, many things that John, I think, has encouraged me to do. And I said that I was really looking forward to getting to spend more time with him and getting to know him better. And the fact that he has shuffled off this mortal coil, I don't think that should stop me from doing that. I'm going to keep reading his work, and I'm going to keep doing the things that his poetry encourages me to do. This morning I went out, I gathered dandelion leaves. I made a fabulous dandelion pesto out of things growing out of the earth. And this fall I'm going to gather some more acorns and make more acorn food, acorn cookies and things. So I just encourage everyone to keep reading his work, and keep taking what he inspired and encouraged you to do and carrying it forward.
Gretchen, may I ask a question?
Yeah, go right ahead.
This is one. There have been so many beautiful things written, inspired by John here and read today. I'm wondering if there's a form of a bulletin board or some way that all of these remembrances can be posted together. In itself would be a wonderful remembrance that we could leave with Anne and Shema and Lizzie and something like that.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. Well, again, I've recorded this reading, and so that'll be on our YouTube channel. You can put comments in the YouTube channel. You can also follow me on Substack, and I'll put this post up there, and you'll be able to add messages as well. Anne, is there anything you want to shout out or invite people to participate in?
Yes, on Facebook, Melanie has been collecting uh, tribute poems to John. She's been publishing them on the Silver Birch Press Facebook page, and she's also going to be publishing a volume. So, Walter, are you on Facebook at all?
Only occasionally. I don't use it very much, but
Okay, it's worth checking out. If you go to my page or John's page, you'll see links to it. I've been saving these, or you can write to me personally, and I'll get you the links.
great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Silver Birch Press, another fantastic publication to check out.
Let me just say that we are publishing a book, a tribute book. So if you'd like your what you read today, could be poetry, could just be, eulogies, anything. Send it to us. I put it in the chat, our email address. It's but if you want to write it down, it's SBP submissions at Gmail. So it's SBP like Silver Birch Press submissions at Gmail.
Okay.
And include a one paragraph bio of yourself, because I'd like to put everybody's bios in the back. I'll
Thank
probably
you.
just feature all the pieces in alphabetical order. I'm not going to make it too complicated in terms of the types of poems and where they go and all that.
But there's
Awesome.
one more thing I'd like to add, by the way,
Yeah.
and specifically for Anne's sake. So much of what I saw from John was illustrated with your work, and really appreciated that. Appreciate your artistry too. Thank you.
I'm going to end the recording, but I'll stay on and people can just, chat or ask questions as need be. But again, for those who didn't know John, check out his work. And for those who did, thank you for being here.